Hey again. Um, a lot has changed since I recorded the last video. And one of the most important changes is that I totally replaced the audio engine of my converter. It's using the OpenAL library, which is also used by Lotro. It's using samples in form of a OGG format, or Vorbis. These are all compiled in this all sounds data file. And when you start the converter now, you can see that it loads all these samples out of that file. You still get the old GUI, but because this is now sending game samples through the same 3D positional audio library than Lotro, the sound is much more close to what we hear in the game. And also I enabled the possibility to drag and drop MIDI files on top of that. So this would be the old example of the Hall of the Mountain King. You cannot drop an arrangement yet, but we saved that one. So that we still have to load via the file menu. And now there's no pre-rendering of any audio tracks, so it starts to play almost right away. And if you export an ABC file, you can even afterwards drop it on the GUI again. So now it will be able to read ABC files that are generated with this version of the converter and give you something that you can't edit, but it will play the ABC file through the same audio engine. And it will also show you how you placed the instrumental parts. This is now encoded in the Z line of the ABC file, which is some kind of an abuse, which is also, if you open an older file, these parts will not be spaced or placed at the right position. But anyway, so this works now with a little more convenience. And to convince you how close this audio engine is now to the game, I made this little 5-piece ABC file, just very simple, and recorded this in the game and also from the converter here. And I recorded this in Audacity, doesn't matter. One time from the game, one time from the converter. I also aligned them in space. The game is, of course, a little bit lagging, which is why those don't look exactly the same. Also, the horn is not positioned at the very same 3D position, but you can see the waveforms, at least in the parts that run synchronously, where the game is not lagging, look pretty similar. And if I play this and switch a bit around between the two versions, it is really hard to tell the difference now. So the top one is recorded from my converter. The bottom one is the same ABC, no differences, recorded from the Lord of the Rings Online. There's no post-processing. This is the direct recording at the same conditions. So now I'm in the game. Back in the game. The game is a bit muddier. Converter. Game. You can hear the lags. So this is already, I would say, quite similar. Of course, there may be small differences that I might update and correct. And actually you can even play around with those differences in the converter right now. So if you right click any of these instruments, you will get the option to change the gain and the fade out duration of those samples when they are sent through this OpenAL engine. It basically changes how loud you will hear this one instrument as a total. I already determined the relative gains through the instruments, so the differences from 3P to 3F. I don't want to start the discussion about the 4P and the 4F. The measurement is quite clear there. There's no difference. So I determined this some kind of a master curve based on the volume differences for 10 instruments, and it's quite clear how the difference of the velocity levels is pushed into this system. So that's already there, but the relative absolute volume can still be adjusted. Also the fade out duration, you can see that in the waveforms if you record it from the game and from this converter, that they pretty much look the same. I set those manually by listening and comparing recorded samples, and I think it's already quite good. Yeah, I'm quite excited about this because now I'm actually able to generate audio previews that are really close to the game, that also show this kind of overpowering of one instrument over the others, because that's one of the peculiarities of this 3D audio engine, that there's dynamic compression that changes the volume on the fly that you hear. And that is also affecting the mix in the game. So whenever we played with our MIDI-based, soundform-based game sounds that we created outside of Lotro, totally with a totally different mechanism, we always had the problem that our previews sounded much better than what you would hear in the game because of this dynamic compression. And that is because now it's using the very same audio engine that the game uses, so all this dynamic compression is happening the same way. The only question now would be how the distance fall off settings in OpenAL are set in the game as compared to my converter. But I think this is now a really minor difference. So yeah, just wanted to show that, and see you in the game.